dear friends, this is gonna be a quick little video about my Nikon ZR workflow, because a lot of the guys that bought the Nikon ZR are having problems with the file sizes, which makes sense because different to the normal RED cameras where you have codec compressions like ELQ, LQ, LQ, and HQ, you don't have that at the Nikon ZR. And the Nikon ZR RED 3D NE codec is almost like the normal MQ or HQ codec in, let's say, a Komodo X or something like that. So that's really a bummer, because the R3D is the only codec you want to use, because that's why you bought the Nikon ZR. I actually have a workflow worked out that at the beginning seems a little bit frickly, or let's say a little bit strange, and also like too cumbersome. But then at the end you will realize maybe that's also the codec for you that suits your needs. So what do? You shoot in R3D, so you don't shoot in NRAW, you don't shoot in any other codec, you really shoot in the R3D codec. You get out your card. For example, this one, I use a 1 terabyte card. I can shoot in 6K up until like 1 hour and 20 minutes, I think. And I can also shoot in 4K up to 2 hours. I normally shoot all the important, really high quality stuff in 6K. And then I use the 4K for social media clips or something like that. I don't even use H.265 for social media clips. I really use the R3D. But I'm going to show you how I do this. So I take out the card and stick it into my computer here. Let's go to the screen. I open up DaVinci Resolve. And what I eventually do is I kind of convert the files to H.265. Now you want to say, that sounds really cumbersome. That's way too complicated, doing that process every time. I get it, but let me show it to you. Let me finish the process. Let me finish showing you the process, then maybe it makes sense. The first thing we avoid by doing this process is we don't even have to copy the files. So what we do is we have I normally use a preset project, like a template. I always use the same project, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna do a new project for you. So we can do here new project. Let's just say test project for ZR workflow. So, and then we're gonna end up here in DaVinci. Of course, this process also works with the free version, but then it just works up to 4K. But let me get into that a little later in this video. I go to the media page. Actually, let's just go to the edit page. And then we have the bins up here. I would do a new bin, let's say, and then put in the date. I always write dates like this. So today is 2026, July 22. And then I put a name of the project. Let's say, because now I have some files from the Dolomites, let's call it Dolomites shoot. In here, I'm going to import my files directly from the card. So I'm not even going to copy it. So let's do that. Let's go in here to the files. And then we have the files. What I always do is just search for R3D. So I don't even copy the .mp4 files, because they're just very bad proxies that we don't need. And let's just, for the sake of this video, take the first, or let's just take more. Let's take the first files here. Let's pretend those are all the files that I shot. Let's just change here. First, we want to set the standard frame rate in the project settings, the standard frame rate and the standard frame size, which means that I put the frame rate and the frame size here that are normally standard defaultly going to use. For me, it's the 6K. I don't remember what the 6K is now, so I'm going to check on the file here. It's 6048 by 3402. So let's put that in. 6408 by 3402, and then I'm shooting in 29.97 frames per second. This is not going to be for every project. This is just going to be your default. So now if you create a new timeline here, by right clicking and doing new timeline, you can name this similarly. Let's just copy this from the folder and just put this in here. And now we have a project that's in this resolution with this frame rate. If you're for some kind of shoot like doing 50 FPS or 25, you can of course always change it by just doing a new timeline here and uncheck use project settings, and then just for example here just put in 4K and 25 FPS at 24 or something like that. I'm going to use this because this is going to be my standard, and then I have my clips here that I shot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the clips down into the timeline, but first we have to check one thing. Did we shoot different frame rates on this project? So if I know during the shoot I shot everything at 29.97 frames per second, then I'm okay with it, I can just continue. If I know some shots were 29.97, so let's just say 30 from this point on because it's faster. If I know some shots were shot in 30 FPS and some shots were shot in 60 FPS, I'm gonna have to do 2 timelines. So that's one caveat here with this method, but it's gonna work out later. So I already did one timeline with the 30 FPS. So let's just do another timeline, create timeline, then I'm gonna call it the same actually, like this, timeline, new timeline, and then let's just add 60 FPS to the name, and of course change the project setting here to the 59.94 FPS. The Nikon ZR obviously also shoots in. It's a bummer that it doesn't shoot in clean at 60 FPS, but that's just how it is. And now what I can do here, and that's really the key part, I can search for clips. Which means, actually, I have to check something. Okay, on this project, I shot everything in 25 and 50 FPS, so let's quickly change that. So what I can do now is do this little trick with the search here, and I can do metadata search, and so I can filter by FPS. So now I can just put in 25, and then my 25 FPS timeline opens. I can open it, select every clip, and now it just only shows me the 25 FPS clips and just put it into the timeline. Just like that. Then I do the same thing with 50, then the 50 FPS timeline shows, and I put every 50 FPS clip in there. Now I have 2 timelines separated, all the 25 FPS clips and all the 50 FPS clips. This comes in really handy later, we will see. I just went too far. We have to do one other thing because I'm gonna show you now, but I will explain it to you later. I'm gonna do Command Z to remove the clips. Let's start with 25 FPS again. We select all the clips, and then we go to Image and decode using clip. You will know why later. Selecting all the clips, then you can just put it in. Same thing with the 50 FPS. Do project to clip, and then just put everything in, and that's it. Now the next process is going to be to go to the color page, and this is the part where I said to you earlier that we're just going to do the color grading, and here comes the fun part. Let's just start with the 25 FPS shots first. Let's for example start with this shot here. What I do is I make a group, and the group can just have your favorite LUT or your color grading workflow. It has to be a fast color grading workflow. So it's not like you're doing a real detailed, sophisticated color grading here. Just do a quick one. So let's add all those clips into a group. Add into a new group. Let's call it ZR LUT. And then we're gonna do a group pre-clip. Let's add a no, actually let's just do group post-clip, and let's add a color space transform here. And let's put in red white gamut, red log G3 G10, and then just put it out to Rec 79 and Rec 79, which should do the same thing as timeline. And now we have a color graded picture. What does that do? That gives us the possibility to view the picture as it would be later in a color grade. Now it's just a quick conversion, but you can obviously put your favorite LUT here, or just the standard workflow you normally do when you color grade. But now what I do is I go through the shots and just set the exposure and the white balance. Or let's say set the ISO here at the camera raw tab and the white balance. So I still have all the raw controls where I can like fix mistakes, especially big mistakes that I made while shooting, or when I like just forgot didn't take the time to set the white balance or something like that. So for example here I am just adjusting this a little bit down. This is also a little bit too bright. Let's do something like this. So I'm not doing a real sophisticated color grade here. I'm just skipping through the clips and realizing, oh, I'm just gonna darken this one, brighten up this one, I don't know. After you went through all the clips, you can switch to the 50 FPS timeline and do the same thing here. So you just select all the clips, do groups, and add it to the same group. So now the LUT is applied. Now you can just correct the clips again. So let's do this a little brighter. Let's pretend I messed up the white balance on this one. So let's just make it a little darker and then also set the white balance to a correct amount. This is just an example. Do all this stuff. You're pretty fast. Normally on a shoot like this, I'm taking like maximum 30 minutes for this kind of work. When I'm finished, I go to the export, and now comes the fun part. I have some presets here. So pretending on where it goes, I have 3 presets. Let me explain. One preset is, maybe this is just a home video. So let's say this is just some stuff you shot with your family. I don't know, it's from your parents or your kids or something like that. So at this point, you don't want to export like a huge 20 gigabyte file in 6K and everything like that. Maybe even though you shot in 6K. So that's the cool part here. I have a preset that's called ZR Home Video, and it goes like this. It's H.265, and it's restricted to 10,000 kilobit a second. And it also restricted to 4K. So even though my timeline is in 6K, it's just restricted to a 4K video. Maybe you can also even do 1080p if you like to. So this is my preset if I want to keep really small file sizes and a video that's already graded. So you just grade here a little bit. This is the home setup. That's probably not what you're here for. I have another thing that's called ZR graded footage. So this also exports H.265 at a timeline resolution, at a full resolution, but it limits the data rate to a quality automatic. Here, let DaVinci decide for that. What I want to say is, if I do a project where I definitely know I will not have to color grade later, maybe this is for like easy social media jobs or something like that, so for fast stuff, I can just export these video clips, and they are also small file sizes, but they have the full resolution, let's say the full quality. So you lose the ability to later change color grading or the exposure and stuff, but you have high quality 6K MP4 file sizes. I use this for social media work and stuff where I know the quality is not the very, very, very most important thing, but it's still important. That's probably not what you're here for either. So I have another preset where we're going to ZR lock. But before we continue, we have to go back to the color page, and then after we set all the exposure and the ISO values and the white balance values, another tip, changing the exposure value here is exactly the same thing as just changing the ISO. It doesn't make a difference. You can select all the clips and then remove from group again. So now we have log footage again. The exposure adjustments and the white balance adjustments still stay, but then your LUT is gone, let's say. You can go to the delivery page again, and now we have the ZR log preset. And this is also H.265 because it's a very efficient codec. You could export in ProRes, but then you have the file sizes again, so you can just use the R3D in the first place. So that doesn't make any sense. I restrict the files here to 350,000 kilobits a second, which is in the same region as, like, you would say a really high quality H.265 codec, a Lumix S1 II or something, a camera like that would shoot, or a FX6 or A7S or FX3 or something like that. Of course, I also put 42 10-bit and now render the timeline resolution, which is also 6K or 4K if you shot in 4K, obviously. The cool thing is now this also renders really fast. So let me do an example. Let me just add this to render queue. I can say we have 12 gigabytes of data now. Yeah, I have to set a render. Let's just do a test folder here. And then we're going to render this. What it does now, for example, I have a pretty old machine. It's like a 6-year-old MacBook M1 Max, 16-inch, and it renders with almost real time. So it renders in, it's like 18 FPS right now. Normally it goes up to 25 FPS, maybe this is because I'm screen recording, and maybe sometimes it even goes higher. And this is also the 50 FPS timeline, let's say. So at 25 FPS, it goes faster. So on a typical shoot, this renders for like 10 minutes to maximum 30 minutes on my 6-year-old laptop. At the end, let's just skip this now. Fast forward, we exported 3 clips as an example here. It's the clip 9701, 02 and 03, and they come out to about 3 gigabytes. Just as an example, I put the same clips on the Nikon ZR memory card here, the R3D clips in a folder to measure how much megabytes they are, or gigabytes. Let's say it's 30 gigabytes. So this is like the proof that we can decrease file sizes by 10 times. File size of 10 times and keep the quality. The only thing we will not keep is the ability to change the ISO and the white balance. But like every other normal H.265 file from any other high quality camera, we can still change exposure a little bit, we can do color grading, we can do all the stuff that we're used to on a normal log image. To prove that the quality is the same, we're gonna put the R3D clip and the H.265 clip, we just export it in the timeline and compare it. So just imported the H.265 clip and the R3D clip into the timeline. Let's take this clip for example. We have the R3D original clip here, and we have the exported H.265 clip here. The same, exactly the same. Let's put both of them into a group so we kind of see the Rec 709 picture. It's better to look at than the log picture. And they look exactly the same. You see, if I skip between them here, they look exactly the same. We can also zoom in to see it better. Let's say this, let's start with 100%. Yeah, for example, here the detail on the trees. There's exactly no difference. There's a little bit of a color cast here in the R3D image, ironically, and the H.265 image looks cleaner, but maybe that's just not me seeing it right. But what I can prove to now also is if I do like an adjustment on the red image, let's just do a exposure adjustment. Let's just turn the quality down, turn the exposure down. Let's do the same thing on the H.265 clip. Now it looks almost the same. Now, of course, I didn't nail. I can just copy it. It's just maybe better. So you can see here, it looks exactly the same. Let's go in even more. Let's go 300%. So the detail on the R3D is very, very, very minimally better, but it's really minimal. So I can also correct. Let's just do a really quick and dirty correction on the hue here. Now this is not the correct way to do it because it's just changing the greens, but still. Now you can see there's no quality difference. We can see all the details in the trees. The H.265 file is like, let's say, a maximum amount of 2 or 3% softer than the R3D file, but it's 10 times less of, there's like 10 times size difference. So this is huge. So now the workflow continues with me just working in your favorite NLE. Let's just say you're cutting in DaVinci, or you can also cut in Final Cut or Premiere Pro. You can just use the H.265 files and just leave the R3D files on your card as a backup, and then just delete the R3D files because you have all the H.265 files. Of course, going back to the 2 timelines here where we exported and pre-color graded all the stuff. And don't forget to export in the export panel also the 25 FPS timeline and the 50 FPS timeline. But at the end of the day, you end up with a folder full of H.265 files that are really small and good quality. I'm using my phone now because ironically the ZR just filled up its card, which is the only caveat you still have. If you shoot in R3, you still have to have a big card, because I have a 1 terabyte card, but I had other stuff on there, so it just filled up. But that's the caveat. Of course, it's still gonna have 1 big card, but that's a one-time investment, or let's say a 2-time investment. You're gonna buy like 2 500 gigabyte or 2 1 terabyte cards, one as a backup. I have a 265 card as a backup. This came with the camera, and then I have a 1 terabyte card. So this is my workflow. If you're not doing shoots that go over this 1.5 hour or 2 hour limit you have on the card, on a 1 terabyte card, or you have a bigger card, then this is going to be no problem for you. This is a workflow that really keeps the quality of the files. You don't have to use the mushy H.265. You don't have to use any other codec. And the thing is, you can decide what kind of project you want. You can export graded home video for just your home video stuff. You can export high quality graded video where you already graded. For example, that's unique for me because I like to I like to edit in Final Cut, but I like to color grade in DaVinci, and I just color grade all the clips in DaVinci beforehand because DaVinci is so much better at color grading, but I like Final Cut so much better for editing, and I just edit with the color graded files. Or if I have a high quality project that I know I'm gonna change the color and the exposure and I do color grading afterwards, I'm just gonna export the log video. That's it, that's the whole video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully still Nikon is gonna get out with a update where we can shoot H.265 Red Log 3G10, or even better, a compressed R3D codec, but I don't know if we're gonna get that. Thank you for watching.